Hi students, hope you all are doing well. Welcome to another very exciting session of healthcare entrepreneurship. So let's get started from where we left last time. Okay, so what are the key resources? This is another very important point, that what are the most important assets required to make the business model work. This is very important. This basically means, is your company if something which requires a lot of funding to get started, or is it requiring a lot of space to get started? Let us say you are into manufacturing of medical implants or some pharmaceutical drugs, you need space, you need some initial capital, right? Or does it focus on intellectual property? You have built this really nice innovative device. Let us say there is some canister for doing some kind of an activity, or there is this particular simple medical valve which does the job better, or an implant which goes in and creates a better bone growth. So these kind of devices will be usually easily copyable if there are so many competitors in the market. So there maybe intellectual property or filing for a patent may be important, and patents do not come out for free. They will cost you 50,000, 1 lakh rupees, even more, if you are trying to basically publish the patent in multiple countries. So we will be talking about this intellectual property rights and different options which are there for your particular company or product at length in the upcoming lectures. But this is another asset or the key resource which can be, and the last one can be human resource. It could be that your company is not doing something super new, but everything is dependent on the sales and marketing. So one example is maybe you are during the pandemic, all you are trying to do, and a lot of these startups have done it, is sanitizers, sell sanitizers, masks and face shields, right? Everybody is doing that, you just make your marketing a little bit more innovative. Let us say your packaging looks nice, or the cover of the mask looks attractive, right? Even the big companies like the clothing companies which were going in the losses, they were selling the same type of mask which you get on the streets, right? With a little better quality of the clothing or better brand image. So that's sometimes the human resources which can be helpful in, right? So what are your key resources? Is it one of these or mix of these? So these have to be identified for any particular product or service which you are trying to offer, and this is what you should put in your business model canvas. So what were the key resource which we had identified? The first is manpower. This particular product of the slip testing device is definitely manpower intensive, because if you do not have a skilled person build your particular device again and again, you will not be able to really survive. If you have orders of 3 devices and no skilled manpower is there, you need somebody with an expertise in mechanical, electrical engineering, some coding. So this is a very skilled labor, right? So manpower is very adding to all the key resources of the cost, right? Next is intellectual property. We do not want a different firm to copy our particular product, so we file for a patent. The third is finance. We need at least some initial capital to get 8 to 10 of these products rolling, be it for selling or renting or consultancy. Consultancy is easy, you can do it with one device only, but for renting, if you have rent request from 5 places, you need to have at least 5 devices, right? So very similarly, if you have sales request for 6 or 7 devices, you need to have the other devices ready. So manpower, intellectual and finance in the same order were found to be important, or guessed to be important, for our particular project, right? Next is key partners or key partnerships. Who are the key partners or supplier needed to make the business model work? So as we have spoken before, an entrepreneurship is basically has to do a lot with the team or kind of collaborators which we have, right? So if we are running in the healthcare space and we do not have contact with any doctors or clinicians, or let's say we are looking into the dental space, if we do not have access to any dental clinics, how can we actually deliver our product or make sure that the product is built right, right? So the right collaborations become very important, right partnerships. So I may be an engineer who does not have the deep clinical or medical knowledge of how this product is going to behave, or what the quality of this product should be, or the features, or how it should be marketed right. I probably do not have this details with me, right, because I am an engineer or a designer, right. So, if I do that as an entrepreneur, what I can do is I can reach out to people, collaborate with them at different capacities. It could be in the consultancy form, or I make them a shareholder in my board, or there could be interns or other manpower. So, I make the right collaborations, or I partner with an institute which is working in a similar domain, and then basically through this key partnership it gives me a different level for my particular product. Now with this partnership, let's say I have partnership with AIIMS to test my particular medical product which goes inside the body. Now I can liaison with several doctors, make sure I get the ethical clearance to do the initial trials and then do the clinical testing and everything. Most of those doctors may be already doing several clinical testing, so they can quickly pass your proposal, help you with the feedbacks and what all things are necessary to get your clinical testing up and running as soon as possible, right? But if I as an engineer, I am just one entrepreneur, I am thinking that oh, like either I would cut corner or not do the clinical test, which is a total failure, or I would not reach out to people, just let me just try to reach out someone of my friends and family, then I am not really nurturing the key partnerships. So that those key partnerships sometimes become really important, right? So example is like, for example, in the vehicle segment, you have Maruti and Suzuki. These are two different companies from two different countries. They have partnered at a bigger platform and trying to develop cars which are compliant with both the countries, as well as there could be several parts built in India, several parts in Japan, and so forth, right? So very similar, you have so many companies which are partnered with the foreign partners, or have multiple companies within India which are collaborating or are collaborating with doctors, clinicians and whatnot. In the healthcare space, look for key partners, right? If you're an entrepreneur who is not a doctor, then you need to look for partners who are engineers. How will you develop your product if you don't have a designer or an engineer? You want to develop an app, you need an app developer. So, one of the biggest mistake which many of the entrepreneurs do is, typically in order to save your cost and time, you would start learning about everything, right? You would think I am this one man army kind of person, I am going to learn app development, I am going to learn all the aspects of like business model development, I am going to be the engineer by learning all the electronics, I am going to be the doctor also by learning about these particular field in Google. So, that is typically not a very successful entrepreneur, who is not delegating the things, or not looking through all the aspects of teaming up with people and whatnot. So, you need to have the right team, you need to have the right partnership in order to make sure that your product is built with the right amount of delegation. If you are not delegated properly or delegating things properly and trying to do everything by yourself, you are most likely going to fail, because you have limited time and limited bandwidth, right? You cannot be doing everything. So, as an entrepreneur, you are basically a manager, you are not a tech. Typically, you would not see a person from technology who is an entrepreneur all of a sudden. Entrepreneur is a very good manager who can manage an engineer, a doctor and a set of people, and trying to build a healthcare product, right? So, the key partnerships are very important, and I cannot emphasize more on how important they are. So, typically for our product, we thought of two key partners who could be beneficial to sell our products. First is the insurance companies. We thought a lot of these insurance companies are struggling with this workers' compensation insurance which they are providing, and typically they can cut down some of the costs if they recommended our device to be used as a part of the insurance policy for certain companies which are working with possibilities of slips and falls, right? Next is evaluating the workers compensation. So, basically what we do want to do is the insurance companies, whichever way they are trying to tap workers compensation from the industry, those are the industries we want to sell it to, because these industries would be careful about people not falling and slipping, right? So, then it is a big case of their capital which is going into the workers compensation. So, these were our initial guesses of the key partners, right? Let us go further. What are the key activities? So that means what are the most important things that the company must do to make sure the business model works coherently and sustainably. So some of the key activities could be, for example, production. So it could be that I am involved with the production as my main thing, or manufacturing in big bulk, that is my key aspect when I am looking at manufacturing of certain products. Or it could be problem solving, where basically I am trying to get the right technical people, where certain problems could be solved much more in a much more coherent manner, and there could be brainstorming. Or is it the supply chain management? I have some kind of a supply chain where several people are kind of involved in different capacity, and like it's dependent on the sales channel, how you are getting the supply of the parts, and kind of can take it further from there. So there are so many aspects which form the key activities. What are your key activities? So there could be 100 activities in your company or part of your entrepreneurship venture, but key activities are typically the 2 or 3 top activities which are important to make your business model work. Let's take an example. So around our slip testing device, we thought of the 2 key activities as this. One is the production. We want to make sure we can quickly produce these slip testing devices with the right manpower. So production is one of the key activity. Second is consulting. We can reach out to this particular set of companies to make sure they give us enough consulting assignments so that we can earn a revenue without even having to move the slip tester, right. So that is one of the attractive avenues, like which we had been looking at from a key activity standpoint. Cost structure. This is very, very important. We want to make sure that the cost structure, or the basically the costing of the different components of our product and the business are within a certain set of limits. We are not overshooting certain costs, and that has to be looked at, right. So many a times you will, and I have given this example before, you would see companies who have got this huge round of VC funding, like let us say 20 crores or 50 crores or even more. You sometimes call it in form of Series A, Series B. There are so many other funding. We will talk about these details when we look at the funding avenues in a little later lecture. So typically most of these funds are utilized to buy nice gifts, get a nice space where you want to decorate it in a very nice way, nice marketing campaigns, and sometimes on the product, and all of a sudden you realize you have run out of money, because typically no money is good enough, right. Like a person who basically has a few lakhs of rupees would think, what if I had 1 crore of rupees, and person who has several crores of rupees, what if I had 50 crores of rupees, right. Like, so it just keeps on, aspirations keep on going on, and there is no tap on how quickly money can really fly. So understanding the cost structure, what is the optimal value you should spend as an entrepreneur, is very, very important. Of course, you can delegate this responsibility to somebody who does the accounting and other details, but as an entrepreneur, you should know that on your tips, that this is the amount of money I am going to spend in a month or spend in a day to make sure my operations are running smoothly and I am getting enough revenues and profits back for it, right. So what are the different components of these cost structures? Some are fixed costs, like for example, you could have like taken certain machineries in your company for building your healthcare products, and other details, like for machining or lathe machining, or making certain grooves or design changes, or 3D printers or whatnot. So this will add to your fixed cost. Or rental of a place, basically you have taken this entire space out for rent of, let's say 5 lakh rupees a year, right. This is a fixed cost. It's going to be the same like every year, it's not going to change. Maybe the rent will increase a little bit from 5 lakhs to maybe 5 lakh 20,000, but it's still a fixed cost which keeps on occurring. Then you have a lot of variable cost, which is based on the hiring and how you want to scale up. So maybe initially in your entrepreneurial venture, you had a founder, co-founder, and maybe one person for the sales and marketing, and all three of you are doing everything. Now you have gone to the market, and you realize that you need a designer, so you have put a designer on board. Then you needed somebody who can give you financial advisor. financial advice, so you have a financial advisor or a CA on board. Then later on you realize you need somebody who has a right influence in the social media circle, so you get another person on board. So these are variable costs, like manpower cost is typically variable, right? And there are cases in which all of a sudden you realize this product is really doing well in the market. I have sold the first 100 versions of it. Now I think I can scale my manufacturing or products to basically 1000. So in order to do 1000, you need bigger space, much more efficient manpower, probably better machineries, better sales. So there are so many things around it. So this adds to the cost structure and could be variable based on how you are scaling up over the years, right? There is a concept known as economies of scale. One of the very classic example is economics of scale basically mean how lot of the products, we have all heard about inflation, right? Inflation means the cost of buying things are constantly going up, right? So if I were to buy like a thermometer for let's say 50 rupees earlier, now all the thermometers are costing me let's say 250 rupees or 300 rupees plus. Same with any of the products I am using, that's kind of inflation, right? So we have all heard about inflation, but there are several products in the market, if you have not realized it, surprisingly their price have gone down over the time. And one of the examples I have recently seen personally is making a pair of glasses or your these spectacles basically. So I walk into this Lenskart shop, which is a very popular spectacle brand in India, like which sells glasses. They will have usually offers, one free on another and so forth. So we made 2 pairs of glasses with different power of the lenses just for 2000 rupees, right? Back in the day, like I am talking about 10-15 years back, I would usually buy a nice frame with the pair of the lenses for around 2000, 2500 to 3000, maybe for one pair of glasses. The same I am getting so many options to select from, and I am gotten 2 pair of glasses for 2000 rupees total, and that also with some added discount for next time. So this is economies of scale, where inflation is going up and the salaries have gone up, everything, the prices are going up, but several products the prices are actually going down because you have mass manufactured or scaled up the manufacturing to such a big extent. Like say earlier with 5 manpower and some machines you were making 100, now with the same 5 manpower and the 100 of machines, like you are making so many of same machines, you are basically making 1000 or 10,000. You have optimized your system in such a way, or manufacturing system. Now what happens is the price of the items go down because you are still earning so much much more higher profit, but the price of the things can be put down. So that is economies of scale. Many a times when you are trying to scale up, you can get the price really down. So similarly for the slip testing device, if I am making this for less than 1 lakh rupees, at a certain point if I feel like I do not need a lot of manpower and I have automated certain processes, maybe I can bring down the price from 8.5 lakhs to maybe 5 lakhs or even lower. Or if I am producing 100 of these devices, I may bring it much more closer to 2 or 3 lakhs, because I would make much more profit by selling more at a much cheaper price than trying to keep the price high for premium customers, right? So this is another thought process to look at from an entrepreneurial standpoint. Where does your product really look for, or what does it really stand for, right? So some of the important things to understand during the analyzing the cost structure are: what are the most important costs, what are the most expensive resources. It could be manpower, it could be the space which you have taken, probably you have to put a lot of rent on this space. So this is how any of the entrepreneur should think, not just keep on splurging money when you have it and later on when you don't have money just perish, right? You have to always plan for your future. What percentage of your budget is allocated for what? If you look at any annual report of a company, they have allocated a certain percentage of their budget for manpower training, certain percentage of their budget for hiring, certain percentage for buying fresh equipment or maintaining the equipment. So this budgeting is very, very important, right? If the big companies are doing it and we are not doing it as a startup, then we are not really visionaries, or we will not be able to really become a company if we do not do all the due diligence, right? So that is one of the important aspect of this course, learning all the different dimensions to become a entrepreneur in the healthcare space. What are all the different dimensions we have to be really thinking for? So this will give you a stepwise outline where now you know these things are absolutely important to make sure my product really goes out in the market. I am able to design and ideate on the right product, able to commercialize it and have a scalable business model, right? This is what the course will equip you through all these stages of understanding of the business model canvas and customer discovery and whatnot, right? Now, once you know all these details and you are educated in this healthcare entrepreneurship setting, now you can delegate to certain personnels or team members whom you are doing. At least you are not missing out on any pieces of the puzzle. So, it is basically like if you are trying to go from standard 1 to standard 12 of your academic journey, you cannot just skip standards 3rd and 4th and go to say I am very intelligent, let me go to standard 5. That will never happen, right? So that's typically just like a staircase effect, like you have to always learn through the different stages of experience in order to get somewhere. So all these set of like budgeting for all your details are very, very important, right? So the key question here is what key activities are the most expensive? That needs to be identified, because that is where it will drive. So if manpower is taking like let's say 90% of the cost of my company, then I know manpower is something to be cut down first in case my company is getting into some debt trap or is not doing very well. So that is where I need to cut first. So we are seeing a lot of layoffs and other things going across the world. So and they would say we are doing some kind of restructuring in our budget, and you know, like this is some, so there are all these fancy terms to kind of talk about layoffs and other things, but typically what they are doing is they are probably realizing that manpower which is a little unscaled or not able to really deliver the profit or the value to their company is kind of superfluous, and that's where they should cut out first. So that's based on the cost structure. If we think that our equipment is adding to the maximum cost structure, is eating a lot of oil, your particular machinery, and oil costs are going up and it's really killing your numbers, then get rid of that machine, maybe outsource it, give it to give your job to somebody or some company which can mass manufacture it. You just do the sales operation. So this is how you restructure your company when you do understand the cost structure. Let's move further. So what were the 3 key components of our cost structure for this slip testing device? The first is the manpower tech. It needs to have extremely skilled manpower who are skilled in so many aspects, and then they have to be technically sound, right? So this manpower is the most expensive part of this deal. So typically as an entrepreneur, once I have built let's say hundreds of the slip testers and now I am able to automate it, what will I do first? I will probably do the layoffs and cut off my manpower, right? So this manpower is just to get me there in the business where I am able to break even or earn enough profits. Once I have automated, this is the first part I am going to cut off as an entrepreneur, right? Good way of thinking. Second is consumables. So there needs to be a lot of consumables and parts, 300 to 400 unique parts with lot of electronic components, mechanical components, wheels, actuators, sensors. So many things are part of this particular slip testing device. So this is the second most add up to the cost, the consumables. Third is the space. I have to have a certain amount of space to store this device, run the test. If I do a consultancy or I want to store, I want to build this device, you need a certain amount of space to work on. You cannot work online, right? So this is the third most cost contributing aspect of the cost structure, right? Let's move further. So now what we see is we have come across from 1 through 9, and the reason 2 is not next to 1 or 3 is not next to 2, there is a particular reason. Just like our keyboard in our computer, they are kind of attached to each other, one goes after another and there are certain attachments how they go. So, that is why the numbers of a business model canvas looks like this. So, now we have filled the entire business model canvas, not based on interviews or surveys, but based on our guesses of the initial market research, right. So, how did we fill this up? Our key value propositions for this portable slip testing device are low cost, first portable device, most accurate footwear COF estimation device so far, right. These are as per the order of priority, the 3 top value proposition guesses. As per these guesses, who are our key customer segments? The first one is footwear manufacturers, second is companies, third is industries, right. These are again guesses. Third is what are our key channels for our product? So, this is B2B, business to business. Fourth, customer relationships, how are we going to maintain and get more customers or keep more customers or grow more customers? Word of mouth through companies and conferences, right. Fifth, revenue streams, we are going to earn revenue through the sale of the product in the same order. Rental is much lower value than the product sale will get you the maximum amount of revenue, followed by the consultancy work. Okay, these are the order in which these activities will get you revenue. These are the 3 different revenue streams. Sixth is key resources. What are the key resources? Manpower, intellectual property and finance. So, these three things we guess are absolutely must in order to make sure our product is successful in terms of business, right. Seventh, key partners. Who are the key partners? Insurance companies, this is what our guess is, who will basically evaluate the workers' compensation and may help us integrate that our product value within a workers' compensation package or talk to the industries about the same, right. So, these are kind of influencers for us. Eighth is key activities. What are the key activities which are needed? Production and consulting, right. Production is absolutely needed to keep on building more and more of these devices, and consulting is necessary, right. Renting is something where we do not have any key activities, it is just shipping, right. Then ninth is the cost structure, which is the last one, which is basically the highest costing things in our company is manpower, followed by consumables, followed by space. This is again our guesses, right, based on our initial assessment. So, till this point you can make all your guesses based on the market research and the understanding of the market through your experience. Let us go further. So, now the question becomes, how do we turn these guesses in the business model canvas into facts? We can only do this through market research and through customer interviews, which is again form of the customer discovery. So, earlier we had talked about 2 components of the customer discovery, where we are trying to understand the value propositions in terms of painkillers or gain creators which we are providing to the customers, as well as we want to try and understand who are our target customers, right. Now, through further market research, we want to explore or expand this customer discovery to understand all these points of the business model canvas and turn these guesses through hypothesis or validation or understanding what the customer feels like to facts, right. That is our goal. In order to achieve this goal, we have a list of hypotheses which are carried out through the weeks, and these hypotheses basically forms part of our interviews and surveys, right. So, what is the first hypothesis here for our slip testing device? A low cost, portable, higher accuracy of footwear slip testing devices will be desirable by footwear manufacturers. So, if you look here, what are the key things we are focusing on? A low cost, portable, higher accuracy. This is just another way of placing our value propositions. Our value propositions, if you remember here, are low cost, first portable device, most accurate. We are placing the same in form of a hypothesis that a low cost, portable and high accuracy or higher accuracy than the other devices in the market based footwear slip testing device would be highly desirable for footwear manufacturers. Second hypothesis, a low cost, portable and higher accuracy for footwear slip testing device, this will be desirable for companies. So, what are we doing here? Same thing repeated, not for footwear manufacturers, but for companies. Third point, same thing repeated, but desirable for industries. So, what have we done here? We have basically connected the value propositions with the customer, three possible customer segments: footwear manufacturers, companies and industries. This is how we place the three set of hypotheses and we test them in our first few weeks. These set of hypotheses will help us understand the value propositions and validate those, whether these are actually essential or customers are looking for something else. We will also be able to validate our customer segments, channels and also understand the customer relationships. How would they like to hear about it? Is it through some conferences or through their companies or some other channels, right? So, value proposition, customer segments, channels and customer relationships are the four different parts of our business model canvas. We are trying to target these four components through only one set of hypothesis testing, right? The fourth hypothesis is so and so customers, based on whosoever we decide as our target customer, right, from the first three hypotheses. So, the first three hypotheses will run for the first 3 to 5 weeks or something like that, and we will try to validate that, maybe a little higher. So, there are companies who run customer discovery programs for 6 months to a year to really understand the market before they launch. So, that depends on you, but chronologically this is how it should be done. The first three hypotheses have to be tested first in form of either interview questions or survey questions, and then once we are clear of our value proposition or target segments, we go next, where we talk about that these specific target customers will be interested in buying / renting / accessing the device. So, this is, if you look at this is where we are trying to focus on the revenue streams, the key resources, key activities and cost structure just through one hypothesis. We are trying to say that, let us say our particular customers are footwear manufacturers, would be interested in buying, renting and accessing the device. Buying is direct buying, B2B, renting is renting and accessing is basically through consultancy or something like that, right. So, once we are clear on this idea and we have validated this hypothesis, hypothesis is basically nothing but it is a guess which we make. My hypothesis is today I will have a good day, right, just taking a step back if you do not know what a hypothesis is. But let us say my hypothesis is not validated, something goes wrong in my day and I do not have a good day, so my hypothesis has failed now. Another hypothesis is like probably today's food, whatever I eat in the night, it is going to be the most delicious food ever, right. This is the hypothesis and it turns out to be the most delicious food. So, now my hypothesis is correct. Very similar lines, the hypothesis here is the customers would be interested in buying, renting or accessing the device. Do the customers actually feel like that? This is what we find out actually through customer interviews or surveys, right. So, once this is all understood, like we will understand our revenue streams very clearly, because some customers, let us say our target customers clearly says that we are not interested in buying, we only want to rent. Then we know our revenue stream is only through rental. Then we want to focus all our attention into rental rather than trying to hire manpower or build like 50 of these devices, right. So, everything around it changes, the key resources also changes. So, just based on the single hypothesis based validation on understanding of the revenue streams, the key resources, the key activities. Now, if everybody is trying to, let us say, just do consulting, just send the shoes to us and get it tested, do I need IP protection? Probably not, right. Then the device is not going anywhere. If it is only consulting which got validated and that is what the customers want, my key activities again change and my key resource here is not IP protection. I will not spend money in IP, right. So, if you look at this may a lot of these things what we are discussing may sound to be very subjective, but there is a very systematic approach through which we are trying to get through. Like if we follow this systematic approach, we will have a very clear understanding of where our product stands, who are our key customers and what are they actually looking at in order to pay for our product, right. The cost structure will also change, right. The entire cost structure changes when you earn income just from rental versus just from sales. So, the fifth hypothesis is so and so customers, who are the target customers, would like to reduce slip injuries by using the device, which will allow them to offer lower workers compensation. This will address the key partner guess. We are trying to guess here basically in that our key partner in this entire endeavor is going to be the insurance companies, who will probably talk about our great product or try to incorporate this in their policy documents, so that they do not have to pay a lot when things go wrong, and this is our guess, right. So, if you want to validate this guess, this is the particular hypothesis, that you reach out to the insurance companies, understand that you are possibly my key partner, but would you be interested in really reducing the slip and fall injuries and your workers compensation by accessing our product, right. So, these are the list of hypotheses which we generated based on our initial business model canvas guesses, right, and these are finally turned into facts through interviews, right. So, we did a lot of very comprehensive interviews and survey questionnaires were answered, and what we finally find out are some of our value propositions which were important and rest were not. So, let us take a look, right. So, low cost was a big yes. So, everybody liked the fact that low cost is there. So, this is after speaking with several customers and stakeholders and running surveys, talking to the footwear manufacturers, companies. This is the final business model canvas which we came out with. I left that part in between because we have done the interviews in the interest of time, but we have done all the due diligence to conduct those interviews, right. And when we are talking about interviews or surveys, we are looking at least 50 to 100 responses. Otherwise, we cannot conclude. Based on 3 or 4 people, we cannot be complacent that our product is going to run fine or our business model is perfect. No. So, at least 50 to 100 responses to validate and make sure it is statistically significant and it is able to tell me that this is working fine, right. So, what are the key findings? Out of the value proposition, low cost is a big yes, portable device big yes, follow ASTM standard, this is a new addition. So, most of the customers wanted to make sure that my device actually follows or conforms to the standards, otherwise they do not find a lot of worth. This is a new finding of the value proposition based on the interviews and feedback. This was never in my value proposition, if you remember, right. So, I did not have this earlier, right. So, we just had low cost, first portable device, most accurate. These are the guesses which we had, and when we look at here, some things have gotten added and some subtracted. Third is ability to rent. So, they really like the fact that they do not have to buy the device and they can rent it out. Fourth, they would like to have test data available. So, this creates a nice barrier to entry. We have tested our particular device across 200 shoes and so many floorings. We have published the data. So, this is exactly what they want. They want test data to be available, that which clearly shows that these shoes in this particular floorings are doing good, and they can kind of validate this with their own understanding on preliminary studies which they have did. So, this they are really looking forward to, which we did not consider it as a value point. So, they are really interested in the test data, which many of the other devices cannot offer. If you remember, majority of them have not been tested much in the industry, right. So, this added value point is going to be really beneficial for this particular product. The third point which we had in the value proposition, most accurate footwear coefficient of friction or COF estimation, was actually not taken very seriously. So, this value point was dropped. So, when we got all the customer interviews answered and trying to get through the surveys, we understood that nobody really cares about how accurate this device is, right. If you are getting 96% accuracy against like other devices in the market which are just giving 93% accuracy, this is not what they are particularly looking at, right. They are definitely looking at low cost, portability, following standards, giving the right test results, that is all they care about. So, these are my key value propositions and these are facts. Facts are always based on evidences, right. These are based on the feedbacks. Next, customer segments. We realized that most of the companies and industries did not give us a very good response. They were like, okay, yeah, this is a nice device, we may or may not use it, we will let our board consider, or you can talk to this tech person, we'll get back to you, kind of thing. But the ones whom we really found very enthusiastic about are the footwear manufacturers. These are this local footwear manufacturers, right? Local companies who are not very credible, or not many very people know about their companies, they are into shoe manufacturing. They are the ones who got super excited and they started calling us back. High amount of enthusiasm that we would love to rent this product, or send our shoes over to you, or something like that. They were not willing to buy your product because this is very expensive out of their budget, but they were willing to rent it for maybe 40 or 50,000 rupees with some security, of course, otherwise your device may vanish or get damaged, right? So, these are the enthusiastic customers we would define as the target customers. So, many a times during your customer discovery, you will find that the assumption that these are the kind of people, let's say I feel like this particular smartwatch is people in their 40s or 50s are going to really like, or the elderly population is going to really like, and all of a sudden you see these elders are not really interested, right? Then you find out that that is not your target customer. Your target customer is maybe people in the 30s, which you have not considered. Now that you have gotten the feedback, you realize your target customers is somebody else. So, target customers are typically people, or a set of people who are really enthusiastic about your product, want to hear more and more, and are willing to probably pay for your product when you actually launch your product in the market. This is what your target customers are. Based on our assumption, our target customer is the generic customer, but based on the actual feedbacks, we realize who the target customers are, right? Let us go next. The channel is still the same, B2B. So, we can definitely not sell this device to end users, which is very expensive in that aspect. So, it is still business to business. So, that is a right guess which we made. The fourth point is, we guess that the customer relationships are going to happen through, if you look at the grayscale image, we initially assumed that it is going to happen through word of mouth with the companies and the conferences. But that is out of the picture now. Most of these companies and conferences and industries did not show too much of interest. So, totally my things have got revamped. Now, what we found out was using showcasing of your device, this is something which is going to attract a lot of value, right. So, a lot of these local footwear manufacturers, they were really interested to see our device and how it functions. They were like, why don't you bring it over to us like sometime, we would like to really test it and try a few shoes, and then we would go ahead with renting it, right. So, that is the correct customer relationship. Now, if I do that with one footwear manufacturers, they are in touch with several other manufacturers, they would spread the word of mouth and other things, but still that showcasing needs to be there. It is very similar to buying a shoe. Would you typically buy a shoe online? It is still not a very much mentality that we would buy a shoe which we are going to use for 2-3 years online, right. We would usually go to a shoe store, try it out, and then basically take it, right. So, very similar to that. The fifth point, the revenue streams which attracted the maximum attention, and we have positioned them differently. Rental is the topmost priority, everybody loved the idea of rental income, and the next part is product sale. So, they were like, if we would initially like to rent your product and try it and test it for a while, and if we really like it, we would probably buy one. That is how the local footwear manufacturers said, right. This is based on feedback. Sixth point, key resources. First is manpower, second is finance. Manpower is still the topmost because we know we have to, even if we built a certain set of devices, we will have to keep them running, functional, and have somebody test it, and we have enough number of devices to be rented in several places. So, manpower is still the topmost contributor as compared to our other contributors to the cost. Second is basically it was intellectual property, but we realized nobody really cares about the accuracy or the functioning. So, it does not matter how good our product is, they would use it if other things are in place like cost or accessibility or the standards, those are maintained. So, what happened was we were trying to file for a patent and spend a lot of money there. Now, we realized through the customer feedbacks that they are least bothered about copying, and there are not too many competing brands. They are all imported. Nobody is there to copy our product, right? And nobody would gain out of copying it. So intellectual property, we completely kept it on the side. We do not need that cost or efforts to be placed right there, right? So typically the two key resources here are manpower and second is finance. Of course, we needed some capital to get going and at least have enough number of this slip testing devices to be manufactured and be ready for renting or selling either ways. Seventh, who are the key partners? So we realize this insurance companies are least bothered about this device. So if you remember our guesses, out of the guesses, we thought these insurance companies are going to be the key partners. So this is a hit on my face, basically, where I realized that these insurance companies are not interested. Who are actually interested are the local shoe stores. Many of the local shoe stores where you have a lot of unbranded kind of shoes and very semi-branded kind of materials, and you have some combinations of those. Those are the shoe stores which would also be some stakeholders, and they would be really interested to basically refer our particular slip testing product to the local manufacturers who are actually building or testing the shoes, right? So they are like, oh, please partner with us, we would love to help you out. We want to make sure the shoes which we sell are good quality, are slip resistant. We would definitely refer your slip testing device to the manufacturer we are getting these shoes from, right? So these folks, the local shoe stores, turns out are our key partners. So completely change of plans, all the grayscale things were the guesses and they have been grayed out because they are out of the system now. We have realized the key partners have changed. Eighth point. So the next 8th point is key activities, where we realize production is of course important, they are still in the same order. Initially we thought consulting is also important, but third one became more important through the feedbacks which we got, which is marketing, which was basically we realized that unless we market it in a very nice way through the rental channel or consulting channel to several local footwear manufacturers, it is not going to be having a lot of traction or value, or we are not going to generate a lot of revenue. So we have to focus or spend some money or do a key activity, which is the marketing, right? This is a new finding. Ninth is the cost structure. Again, the manpower tech cost is the highest, followed by the consumable, and third is the space. So this still remains the same. So several of our guesses in the business model canvas turns out to be the same, and several of them have changed based on the feedback and validation study which we did. So I would expect all of you, if you are looking at this new idea of the product which you haven't started designing yet, or you're just ideating or trying to understand whether there is a market or not, please fill out this business model canvas guesses and then run customer interviews, do your customer discovery to turn them into facts. Very, very important. Let's take an example of another startup. Okay, we took a product example. Let's talk about an application based or a mobile app example. So a lot of us folks in the entrepreneurial journey are building apps, and we are interested to hear how can we get popular or how can we actually sell our product. So let's take a look, right? So this particular app, this is an ongoing project where we are trying to basically this is known as face to fat, where basically using a selfie. So all of us take selfie images, right, every now and then. Through just using of this selfie through this app, it can basically tell us what is the BMI which we have, and this looks very cool. All of us are kind of really aware of our weights these days, like with the new generation, and even I am personally aware of once my weight shoots up and I've been eating out quite a bit, I know that my BMI is somewhere, but I would typically not go to a clinic to test it, right? So this is where this app we have designed, which can basically look at just taking the contour of your face, and this is based on a lot of statistical data and other things and research, and can give you the BMI. So this is the key aspect of the app. And one of the key ideas here was during the pandemic, where a lot of us have put on a lot of weight because we are sitting at home, not moving around quite a bit, all work from home culture has kind of evolved. and we don't want to visit the hospitals at that point, right, because there is this virus roaming around, right. And then telemedicine is very common. So our idea is, if someone can take a selfie and it gives the BMI, and this could be told to the doctor, just like a vital measurement. When you go see a doctor, they use the stethoscope or thermometer just to take a look at it, you or see your tongue. So similar, you give the BMI rating and the doctor writes it down and then analyzes your situation or whatever disease or problem you may have, right. So that's the context. So the technology here is this basically uses some these are known as APIs, or basically these are basically standard applications where you can track the different points on your face, very similar to face recognition. And then basically through designing of the internal system, you can place an outline around your face going from this ear lobe to this ear lobe, and this outline can then be compared, like, so you can generate a number and fit a curve like parabolic curve, mathematical curve, and get a number and compare it with lot of statistical data. So we found that there is a statistical data which we generated in the Indian population, which is based on the parabola coefficient of your basically the face outline at the bottom, and we had a correlation with BMI. So we had a fairly high correlation of 0.76. It's not super high, but it's good, and it could improve when you increase the number of participants who are using this app. So this was at a prototype stage, and we wanted to do more research. So the idea is you take a selfie. In the back end, it compares the value of the parabolic coefficient of the curve which is fitting to the bottom face with the BMI chart, and throws you a value like your BMI is 19.6, you have a normal weight. So now you are happy that my weight is normal on so date in the June month, right. Very simple and straightforward, face to fat. So what are the starting point or guesses? The idea was it should be easy to use. So basically you are using selfies, everybody likes to take selfies, it is not a big deal, you will take your photographs. It should be useful in the sense it should be dynamic, and it should alert you when it feels like you are obese. So basically it makes it very personalized, so you do not have to see a doctor or get embarrassed when you are put on weight, so you can just know by your own, right. Third is convenience. So out of the convenience, you can use it anytime, no visits or no instruments are needed. Right now, if you want to measure your BMI currently, you have a height measurement and you have a weight measurement, that is typically standard measurement. And if you want to take further measurements of your body fat, there are this bioelectric impedance measurement, and there are so many other technologies which needs you to visit a clinic and basically gives you a much more detailed body fat measurement, right. So those details can be skipped, you can just take a selfie and it will give you the BMI. Very cool stuff, right. So the key customer segments we wanted to target here were the general public, where all of us are very enthusiastic about selfies, and second is doctors. Doctors not for taking their own selfies, but for recommending patients to take their selfies and tell them the BMI, right. The third component, channel, is basically B2C. This is definitely business to customer. We are trying to reach out to the customers and sell this app to the customers. Fourth is what are the key customer relationships. So this has to be word of mouth. We wanted to run ads in the social media, and that is number one, and we wanted this app to somehow get viral at some point, right, where everybody is kind of aware through social media that I am putting this nice face picture and it gives me BMI, so everybody will start doing it, looking at Facebook and Instagram and whatnot, right. The next one is doctors referral. So whenever we are trying to pitch it to the doctors, we want to make sure that the doctors will refer to the patients that please take your selfie using this app, and based on that I will know your BMI. And the stakeholders are both, these are the hospitals and the general public. We can get some commissions or payments from both the sides, right, that is the idea. The fifth point is revenue streams. So it has to be a paid app. So maybe you can give it 4 or 5 times for free for just demo version, and then you have to pay a certain amount for taking your selfies, maybe 50 selfies for a certain price or 100 selfies. So that kind of a thing, right. The second part was tie up with hospitals, where hospitals can pay a certain bulk amount or certain maintenance fee in year wise basis, where all the doctors can have access to this particular app free of cost, or right, like the hospital is paying up it. And the third component was you have this great idea and some company is really willing to fund you, so you totally give this idea and the entire technology to somebody. So these were the three possible revenue streams in the same order. We wanted to generate the maximum revenue through paid app, followed by tie up with hospitals, followed by sell it to the company possibly, right. So sixth point is key resources. The key resources are here manpower, where you need an app developer, a designer, somebody who can interface things well, and some researchers to actually keep on conducting this kind of research. You need a social media platform or a person to handle the social media platform, where this can only get popular through that arena, because selfies are usually not a serious person in the corporate world is taking selfies, right. This is usually all regular people who are visiting the social media. We want to present the selfies or showcase where we are traveling. So social media content has to be there. Third is intellectual property. This is a very simple concept, but somebody may copy this idea. So these are my guesses that intellectual property is also an important key resource, right. Seventh is who are the key partners? Doctors and hospitals, right. Very intuitive. Key activities, this has to go through a lot of marketing and needs to have referrals from the doctors specifically. Ninth, what is the cost structure? Manpower is expensive, the most expensive component of this work, followed by the software and hosting. So this will have a lot of data which is generated, so software and hosting will cost, and bringing this out for the Android, iOS and other platforms would be difficult. And ads is the third cost adding factor. If you are trying to run ads, you will have to pay to certain companies to run ads, right. Like, so these are the cost adding factors. So these are the starting point with all the guesses. So with this, we are going to wrap up the session. We will pick it up from here in the next class. So see you again. Thank you.